You're listening to The Table Talk with your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Light. Tune in every other Thursday starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and a new special guest live on Facebook and Twitch. Without further ado, let's start the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Table Talk. This is episode 31. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are having a great evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you are watching this episode. Thank you all for being so supportive of the show. I want to give a shout out to my Patreons, Bernadette, Dave, and Mary. Mary actually just had a birthday, so special happy belated birthday to Mary. And if you guys want to be part of the Table Talk community, Patreon is where it's at. If you want to go check out some extra bonus footage and extra perks, go to patreon.com/table_talk, and that'll be listed in the description of this. And tonight is actually a previously recorded video, and we will be, when this comes out, it'll be about another day or two, so by the time you guys are listening, this will already be out. So I was able to sit down, and I have a wonderful guest tonight. We go back a long way, and I've been able to, try to keep in contact with him throughout the years. We played a couple shows together back in our younger days, and he's been touring with a pop-punk band, and we'll be getting to more of that band and more of his touring stories and everything. And also, if you guys are not already, make sure you guys are subscribing and following the show, Table Talk, on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Music. Be sure to give us a review. It really helps out the channel and helps us throughout the charts. You know how it goes. And without further ado, let's get into our special guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Marc Juliano. Hey, Marc, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How about you?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for reaching out. This is awesome. I was watching the intro because obviously I can see everything, and you had a lot of our friends on. It's actually really I like Pointless and Ant, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely awesome.
Yeah, man, and a lot of people that we kind of grew up with, because I for one was in PA when I was actually joining the Jersey music scene, and
hmm
I met a lot of like-minded people like you and from the New Jersey scene who I actually still keep in contact with through this day. I have made a lot of good friends, and it's always fun to reminisce and chat with everybody, and the guys in Groundless and everybody, and I had David Earl
hmm
on, and he's a really
Oh, David Earl.
David Earl's my buddy, man. He's a good guy.
He's a great guy. We have so many awesome stories, and he's helped out Goalkeeper in so many ways. Like we're forever in debt to that man.
Oh
And
yeah,
um,
man.
no better guy I'd rather be in debt to than David Earl anyway. So
Oh,
it's all good.
absolutely. Yeah, we met through Warp Tour, and we were both in the Battle of the Bands to play the Ernie Ball stage there, or it was the acoustic
Nice.
basement. It was the acoustic basement stage.
hmm
And we both didn't know each other going into it, and I saw this David Earl experience, and we're kind of like neck and neck between. I'm like, who's this David Earl experience guy? I've never heard of him. And then he messaged me, I messaged
Yeah.
him, and then long story short, we became best friends. It was awesome.
Yeah, and his show is an experience unlike any other.
Mm.
So when we actually get to play his birthday show this year, we missed it last year. I can't
Uh,
remember why we missed it. We were either like touring or no, well, last year the pandemic, but I don't count the pandemic year because that just like doesn't exist.
yeah,
Now we all lost that year.
right.
But 2019, I don't think we were able to play because I think we had like another show that we couldn't like there's like a radius clause or something like that,
Uh,
and but we try to play his birthday show every year, and thankfully our fall run that we're doing starting next week actually ends on his birthday show, like day two
mm,
or whatever on that Saturday. So it actually worked out where we could actually not only end a run in home because we usually end runs kind of far away where we end up using Sunday as like the drive day home, which always sucks. So we
uh,
only got to end it at home, but then also for his birthday show with so many awesome bands that we're friends with. Like well him and Cut the Act, and we get to
Uh-huh.
do the band we're on the run with Stage Moms actually gets to play as well. So we're really stoked to introduce them to David Earl and like how
Nice.
he does shows and everything.
Yeah, I remember Cut the Act. They actually, we actually played a show together on the Trocadero basement stage, and I was playing a
Oh,
gig, and they were on. It was like I
yeah.
think when they were just forming, because
Was it
I
the Praying Mantis shows?
yeah,
Like one of theirs, like where he like booked out the main stage and
uh huh,
everything. Was it
yeah,
Steve something? I can't remember. Was it
Steve Sermensky.
Sermensky? Yep, there you go. Yeah,
Yes,
we did a couple of his shows too. He was a good guy. He gave a
he's a very nice guy. Me and him go really far back too. Especially
mhm.
with my first band, he got us to main stage the Trocadero stage. I think like two or three times, and we sold out that place every single time. We were like packing that place.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a big venue too. What 1,200 people? So good for you.
Yeah,
I
and
I wish we were that
yeah,
big.
we definitely had like close to 1,000 people when it came to us, and then we had a lot of lot of other bands that helped, buy tickets and or sell tickets, and I think it was
Mhm.
like just about 800 to 900 people that showed up,
Still
and
massive. That's
oh
awesome. That would
yeah,
sell out. That
it
would
was
sell out
amazing.
the TLA.
Yeah, that it was, and I think we had a point where we had a chance to do the TLA, but it just didn't work for us. And but
Gotcha.
unfortunately, just like a lot of local bands, we didn't really keep at it, and we had creative differences. But
Yeah.
yeah, Steve Semensky, and even when I started doing a lot of solo stuff, I reached out to him, and I was able to play on the main stage as a solo act too. So that was pretty big for me as well. And
Hmm.
just from being on a band stage and from being a rhythm guy just on it and then being there all by myself, it was definitely scary the first time, but
Oh yeah.
actually going there and doing it a couple times, it was definitely an awesome memory. And the Trocadero will definitely be a venue I'll never forget, because I shared a lot of memories at that venue.
It's a travesty that place shut down.
Yeah.
And I mean, we would absolutely play the balcony for like a holiday show or like a big hometown like goalkeeper show if we had the chance. Because
Uh-huh.
as much as it was a pain in the ass to like get down there and find parking, and obviously
Yeah.
there's 36 or 40 some steps, whatever
Oh
it was,
yeah, I do
to
not
get
miss those
upstairs.
steps.
No, I mean, we were the band. We played there once as goalkeeper, and of course, lugging up the 810 and
Yeah.
the big 412 guitar cab and drum
Yep.
sets and merch. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's like it sucked in the moment. But I think if anything, this pandemic has taught us to really appreciate even the bad with stuff that you loved. And so,
Absolutely.
I look back, and I'm like, you know what? As much as I used to like complain about how like the steps suck and the parking's
Uh-huh.
awful, and all the people would like not really want to come to see us play shows there because of how awful it was to get there and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? At the end of the day, though, I'd give anything to have that venue back because there's just no venue. There's very few, I should say, there's few venues in the city that have that same type of like vibe and played such a pivotal role in the like punk scene of
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Because I mean, they're the ones who gave my old band our first like real a couple of our first real venue shows in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And back then we were so young that I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know how to book a show. I didn't know how to reach out to people.
Yeah.
I didn't even, and we were just jumping on anything that we could play, whether it was like a Willow Grove, PA, like VFW show,
Right.
or something in Delco, like the Rusty Nail or things like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But when we actually were able to get connected and kind of learn how to like talk to promoters, Steve and some other promoters who would rent out the balcony were the first ones to give my old band a chance to play like a real venue
Yeah.
with real sound and like really everything. And of course Steve also gave us the opportunity to play the main stage and stuff too. Um,
And he took care of
which
bands
was awesome.
a lot, especially if and he wasn't even necessarily a guy like, oh, if you make me money, I'm going to take care of you. He took care of the bands that he knew needed the spotlight. And if it wasn't necessarily always about like, oh, how many tickets can you sell? I mean, if you
Hmm.
were, if he knew you guys were good on stage, but you guys needed a little bit more help, selling tickets, or if he knew he just needed to get you into a bigger audience to get, he would help you out so much. And I got to give him so much props for,
Mm,
boosting us, just like you said, giving us time on the main stage. And he
yeah.
would even be the one to recommend, like, if he saw one of us or any types of bands that would be recommended for national act shows, he would
Hmm.
tell the actual, Live Nation or whatever bigger companies, they're like, hey, I got this smaller act, and I think they would fit one of your upcoming national acts coming through, and check them out. And so he would definitely take care of the bands that definitely deserved it, whether it was,
Oh,
and it had nothing to do
absolutely.
with the fact that, oh, well, they just, not necessarily sold it out, but oh, they just made me this amount of cash, and I think they'll make you. It's more like they deserve it, and
Hmm.
that I definitely think they need to get the push up. So shout
Oh,
shout out to
yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the last Praying Mantis show my old band did, which was a Trocadero main stage kind of like local showcase thing that he would put on.
Uh huh.
That's when I actually met Cody, our drummer, because he used to be in a band called Hansford from South Jersey, and
Okay.
it was we always joke like it was funny like it was us and them between like the headlining spot, like who sold the most tickets and brought like the bigger audience, and
Yeah.
I think Cody remembered saying like, "Oh, we've got this," and then out of nowhere, like we sold like a lot more than they did, and he was just like, "What the hell?" And then and you used to think you're some big shot. Like we had the headliner dressing room, and they had like
Oh
the
yeah.
shared dress. You
You
used to
felt like a
think you were
rock
such.
star.
You did, and you definitely at such a young age had the fucking mentality of like, yo, we're sick because we just like
Oh yeah.
headlined a local showcase on a main stage in
Oh
front
yeah,
of
we
like,
thought we were, Metallica up there, like you said, had the main stage, dressing room, the green room, and everything. Like, no, you guys
oh
can't come
yeah,
in here. This is only for main stage people. This is only for the headliners.
yeah, yeah. And of course, like you walk in there and they're like, yo, like where's the drinks and the water inside the fridge? And the venue
Yeah,
staff's like, shut the fuck up, dude.
right.
But
It
I
was
did
cool to
get to
live in the
meet.
moment.
It was, yeah. And you look back now and just like cringe, but all right, I had to make those mistakes and be that much of an asshole to kind of like be
Yeah,
better now.
right.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, that's where I met Cody, and that's when our friendship really kicked in. And so, uh, out of necessity, again, like saying like because I didn't know how to book shows with other promoters at the time, me and one of our future drummers of the band, we actually started booking shows ourselves, and that's how I kind of got into that.
Uh huh.
And so Hansford was like a go-to band of mine to book because I
Right.
was friends with them. I knew they pushed really hard and they would bring people out. And what was it? So I would book shows at like independently book. I wasn't like an in-house promoter or anything. I would like
Right.
rent out the Voltage Lounge or the
Mm-hmm.
Fire and stuff like that. And the Fire
Yeah.
is when a lot of the shows I was booking were happening. And after my old band, like I quit my old band and kind of influx in between like projects and stuff.
Uh huh.
I was doing a show and I had Cody. Um, I'm like, yo, I need a band. And he actually introduced me to Ryan's, our singer and bassist, his old band,
Uh huh.
Another Day Wasted. I booked them a couple times. And then that's actually how the three of us met. So it kind of all started with the Steve Sermensky show.
There you
Me and
go.
Cody became friends, kept the friendship going, and then he introduced me to Ryan, and then
Uh
we
huh.
became friends, and then to tell the long story shorter, out of necessity, like not a necessity, but like Ryan and Cody were out of bands, I was out of a band, we did like a cover show together, and that's how like we ended up forming Goalkeeper.
And it
And
just
I
was
like,
kind of like, yeah, this clicks. We should start something.
yeah, you really did because we were all friends before wanting to be in a band together.
Uh
Like
huh.
and you know how it is with a band. Like if you
Yeah.
get two bands together, this person connects with that person, this person connects with this person, and
Yeah.
because of personalities, and that's kind of what happened. Like I connected with Cody the best out of the Hansford guys. Now I'm still friends. We're still friends with a lot of the Hansford guys. They still
Right.
come out to our shows. We were invited to their guitar players like wedding, and we
Nice.
still hang out with the singer and stuff. So, and then Another Day Wasted, I connected with Ryan,
Uh
and
huh.
so when I needed a band, I couldn't find one. Me and Ryan decided to do like a cover project, like where we just covered the band, like cliche pop punk bands, like Sure We're Going Down and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we needed a drummer, and the only drummer we thought was good and knew all the songs already was Cody. And then he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And then we had so much fun. And then after that show, when Ryan and Cody said that their bands broke up, we're like, "Well, why don't we form a band? We had so much fun." And
Yeah.
like, let's not take it seriously. We tried to do the serious band thing, and it didn't work out. Like, although none of us like toured or did any of the shit that a serious band actually does.
Uh,
Um, we're older now. Let's take a break. Ryan had a full-time job. I was in grad school. Cody was in college.
got you.
And then I think starting the band with that mentality helped a lot
Hmm.
because then like as we, kind of grew bigger, we're able to grow with the band and not feel the pressure from like the first practice of like, so we're gonna form a band, we're gonna go on tour, we're gonna record all these music videos and go to a high-end studio and spend all this money. It's gonna take all this time. Are you ready? And then immediately all of us would have been like, fuck no, like go away.
Right. Exactly.
But just with nothing more than the goal of just like, yo, let's just be the fun pop punk band and all the touring bands hit up to play their shows, and we bring a decent amount of people out. Our songs are funny, we're goofy, and we like to party, and that's it.
And I get that vibe. I mean, I was listening to a lot of your music the other day, watching the music videos, and I got that vibe from you guys. The typical pop punk band says, "Hey, we're here to have fun, party." And like you said, like we just want to be that band that other bigger bands just want to have on because they know one they're going to bring people out, but they're a fun time. Because I think that's. I mean, I
Mm,
don't really have the touring experience like you do, but I know for a fact that a lot of bands uh, are encouraged by other bands that they know they're going to have a good time with on tour because the touring life is not as cracked up as a lot of people think it is,
yeah.
but it's just if you have a lot of good vibes and personalities out on tour, it's going to make things a little bit easier on the road for you guys.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, we made some of those mistakes, like some of our beginning runs, like weekenders and stuff, when we would do it with like we would do them with like certain bands. Um, we would definitely think about it like, oh, this band would be good because like they're up and coming and they rule.
Yeah.
But then like you didn't really connect on the run with them at all. Like you spend more time separated, and like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the lasting relationships you thought you would have. And excuse me, so now we do base it off music, right? So we're like, okay, like who's kind of like kicking ass that we want to like listen to every night
Mm-hmm.
when we're like doing like the DIY runs and stuff. But then
Yeah.
also like, is there anybody that like we feel we're actually like friends with and we want to spend 10 days with,
Right.
sleeping in a stinky van in
Mm-hmm.
parking lots and eating like crap and drinking and smoking a whole lot. Which is why the most recent run we did in September, we did with our friends in, no pun intended, friend circle,
Uh-huh.
um, from South Jersey, because we've been homies with them for so long and they're starting to tour and stuff now. So we're like, no better band to take out for this run that we're doing to celebrate like our EP we released last year than them. And it was the best time. Like
Awesome.
it was the first time we played tour pranks on each other. We were supporting each other every night. Like we got to see them like, break out of their shell. Like they challenged us to be better musicians because like we're not the best because we focus on having a good time. But like
Yeah.
they really, because we played after them every night, they're such good musicians that we realize like as much as we want to go up there and have fun, we also can't be sloppy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they really pushed us to be better musicians too. So it was just like that was single-handedly the most fun like run we've ever done. And so that really set a precedent for us of like who we bring out on tours
Right.
and like who we want to do stuff with, because if we feel like we can't hang out in a parking lot, drink beers and just have fun and goof on each other, like it's why are you doing something with somebody for like 30 to 10, 30 days or whatever it is? Like,
Uh-huh.
you have to have more in common than just like I like your songs and you like ours.
Right, exactly. And you know,
So
the only like real, I guess you could say, touring experience that I've had is when I was in my other band in Jersey. We went out to Ohio to record our EP at the time, and then the guys that were
nice.
out there, they had I think it was Forever in Terror. There was a band out there, and the guitarist was, he had made his own studio called Vibe Studios, and he was friends with a couple other people out there, and uh, there was another band that they were connected with. I think it was called Fallen Captive, and they were,
Hmm.
all playing out shows in like the Cleveland area. And we went out to see them one time. They asked us to come back out and play a show, so we went out there and did like a whole weekend's worth of shows with them, and that was like my experience of like tour life, because you do the whole, okay, pack the top ramen, get this and get that, all the cheap stuff you
Hmm.
go out with, and we were out there for a week. For our EP, and it was fun, and it was a fun experience just being out of our comfort zone, especially for me because I'm so used to just going to a studio that's very local, and you can go
Hmm.
home and sleep in your own bed. Where like this time it was like, okay, it was the whole studio was in like a garage area
Yep.
where you had the studio and you had a live like garage area room, and then the other section was just where you chilled and went to bed. And
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, and it was a typical time of like you don't have the comfortable bed, you don't have the places where you'd be like, oh, okay, well, I can go home to a home cooked meal. You're either snacking on fast food or something, and if you don't,
Oh
you're just SOL.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and the Goalkeeper was the first band. Like my old band did one run together. We did like a week from like Tampa up,
Nice.
and it was cool. But that was when we realized we hated each other, which very much
I
happened. Which very much happens on tours and
can
runs. You
imagine. I can
just
imagine. You really start to know certain people when you spend
mm,
more time with them, but especially on the road, you get to know people
oh
more.
yeah. Oh right, and like and not only just like their living habits, which can be really gross if you have like a gross band member who like doesn't shower or brush their teeth or
Yeah.
is isn't very clean.
Uh huh.
But also just like their personal beliefs and values and morals. Because when you're just driving for hours on end, you're just looking for stuff to talk about. Life, you're on the road, things just get thrown your way, and you start to kind of like unveil your belief systems and stuff like that. That can be a real impact, especially if you're finding yourself like, yo, I didn't realize you had that in you. Like, shit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
think I'm comfortable being in a band with you right now. Um, and so it was funny, like Goalkeeper, again, we started off very, let's just have fun. And we did the studio local, it's called Overlook Studios out in like the Willow Grove area.
Overlook
And
Studios sounds familiar. Yeah.
yeah, Bruce Wagner from Victory in Numbers, it was
Hmm.
his studio. Um, and so like we did our first three songs there. And we just did like the music, just like simple music videos. Like our first video ever was shot on mostly like an iPhone and DSLR camera, which
Uh
was
huh.
fun. Um, and so we released the songs and we started to get quote unquote traction.
Mm-hmm.
Like people around Philly were like, "Yo, I actually like this song, Leftovers."
Right.
And oh my God, the song Pong Partners is actually really catchy and fun.
uh
And so we started getting to be asked to play more and more shows,
huh.
and people started to come out, and it was a lot of fun. And we were really bad. We had horrible sound. Cody had no idea what he was doing on the drums. Like he knew how to play drums and keep time, but like
Yeah.
he had to learn to be a pocket drummer, like put
Gotcha.
fills where they're appropriately supposed to be, not every second and
Uh
fourth
huh.
beat you're throwing in like a crazy fill.
Yeah.
And and we had two bigger opportunities. So like we got to play the Foundry,
Uh huh.
and that actually it was only one song that we messed up. I've told the story 1,000 times, so I won't like delve into it. But it was just like a cover song we like messed up pretty bad. But the rest of the set wasn't awful. We played a little fast because we weren't on a click track at the time,
Uh huh.
and uh, and then we played a big festival in Pittsburgh, and that was like this arguably top three shittiest shows like we've ever played. I mean, like humiliatingly bad, and we were on the same like lineup as like the starting line in State Champs and Dangerous Summer,
Right.
and we should not have been there. Our friend who books that event and books that festival out there. I think was trying to hook us up because like I've hooked him up so many times in Pittsburgh, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity. But looking back, we should have had enough knowledge to not we should have had enough knowledge to be like, yeah, we're not ready for this. But we're young, we're dumb, we're excited. Holy shit, we get to play this big venue, we get to
Yeah,
play this big
I
show.
I would have done the same thing. And not many bands,
Yeah.
just like you said, not many bands talk about the bad shows and that they've
Oh yeah.
had that really made them realize we need to, that you learn from the bad shows when
Oh
and
yeah.
then when you have like your bigger moments of like this show was stellar. Every like we were in the pocket,
Yeah.
vocals were on point. I didn't miss a step. Crowd was into it, and then so you get to those big things, but you can't get to those big things without having those times where like, yeah, you remember that show where we just totally bombed and you can't believe we didn't get booed off the stage, you know?
Well, and like, and after that set, I was convinced of like either quitting the band or just like straight up telling the band like, "Yo, we're not going to be a serious band. So if we
I've
get
had those
serious,
things too, man.
yeah, it's like if we're going to get serious offers, we just have to tell them no. Like we're going to be the basement, local venue Philly band where we can get drunk, fuck up, and it doesn't matter, you know." Um, but surprisingly, the guy who ends up being our producer for the last, two EPs and now our full length that we're working on,
Uh-huh.
Kevin from Hit the Lights, he's the
Oh,
guitarist, and
nice.
he played Polar Bear Club, and he's the bassist in Joywave now.
Uh-huh.
Um, he heard our song Pong Partners, and like they Hit the Lights was on that same festival,
Uh-huh.
and as we're feeling completely defeated and humiliated, and like we don't even think we should like be a real band, he like meets us after the show and was like, "Hey, dudes, awful set, but I love what you're doing. Don't give up." And we're like, "You're like the first real like successful musician any of us have ever met and actually had a conversation with, let
Yeah.
alone compliment like our band, you know?"
Right.
And then it was in that moment we like went home and regrouped and we're like, all right, if we're gonna take this seriously, we have to take it seriously. Like we have to go to a real producer, real studio,
Yeah.
upgrade all of our gear, get better merch, start touring, change our change our fucking lives to like be more indicative to touring.
Yeah.
Which we did. I mean, I finished grad school, but then when I got my first job after grad school, I quit because it wasn't available for touring and stuff. It was too full time. So I
Yeah.
went off to work a job where I control my own hours and can still make like a good salary and tour as much as I want.
Yeah.
And then Ryan left his full time job to start his own business, which is doing well
Nice. Nice.
for singing. And Cody finished college, but he stayed at the job he was at because his boss is a musician or like was a touring musician.
So
So
he kind of gets it. That's cool.
he makes enough money to pay his bills, and then his boss gives him as much time off as he wants. So
That's cool.
yeah, and so then that's when we like decided on the studio, which was out in like Paducah, Kentucky. This was all like Bad Times Don't Last era. And Kevin ended up offering to produce the record because he lived down by that way, and that's how we ended up working with him and continued to work with him.
Mm-hmm.
But really long story to get to the point where it's like we've never spent more than a weekend together as a band. And then the first thing we do is take like 20 days
Hmm.
to go, or not 20, like 18, regardless, it's 18, 20, no different. So we go down to Kentucky to record Bad Times Don't Last, and we're there for a full like 14 days. And then going out, we did our first little weekender where we played like Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
And so adding those 2 days plus a day in between for travel to get to the studio and stuff, we were essentially out for about 18, 17, 18 days.
Yeah.
And the guy who we recorded at the studio, he had it in his house. He like built out his whole basement and an extension to be like like a really, really good professional studio. And one of his bedrooms he built to be a band room
Uh-huh.
that had access to like a shower and had like bunk beds, so like he could offer free housing for the bands too at his place.
Cool.
And so never knowing more than a weekend with each other, we go
Yeah.
out for like 18 days. Um, and a lot of firsts. We realize that Ryan snores like he's a damn elephant, and We realized Cody cannot exist without music playing all of the time, no matter what.
Hmm.
They realized that I am incredibly like just like on time, and da, 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 and but it ended up working because I think that each of our personalities also fit the role of the band.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm the business guy of the band.
Yeah.
I don't really do the main writing. So me being super punctual and like this has to get done by this time and very timely and very organized.
Yes.
Actually, as much as it might piss them off, or they might text each other privately like I'm going to kill Mark, talk me down.
I hear you. I,
It
I was
works
always that
because
PR guy on my band too, and
yeah,
I was always the PR guy, the doing the show bookings, and like you said, they just let me do it because they knew I was kind of good at it, and even being solo,
yeah,
I was already good at doing it through the band, so I'm like, all right, well, this is gonna be cakewalk with me doing my own
yeah,
stuff, and so
yeah,
I do my own bookings, doing that. But the only thing is, you have to be the songwriter, you have to be the producer, you got to be the booker and everything. But
yeah.
if you like what you're doing, it doesn't feel much like a job.
No, not at all. That's one of the things we talked about too as a band. I think really helped us jive really well. Which even though like that first trip together, it
Yeah,
didn't even come close to breaking us up or hating each other. Actually, it made us grow a lot stronger together.
that's awesome. That's what it's all about.
Um, with the very beginning of the band, we talked about roles.
Hmm.
Because we all were the leaders, quote unquote, of
Yeah,
the bands that we were in prior. And the problem is, as you know, when you're in the non-serious bands and stuff, the quote unquote again leader, they tend to wear many hats. They wear the promotion, the business, the songwriting, the
yeah,
everything. So when we actually kind of took a step back to really see what each of us was strongest at, as much as they all knew business, I was the best at music business. I was the one who I still do it to this day. I will probably after this, I will pop on some sort of interview with some manager or agent or something and just hear them talk about the industry and learn,
uh
you
huh,
know. And so they're like, all right, yeah, Mark's dedicated to that shit. Let
yeah.
him do that.
Now, is that
And
what you
then,
went to school for, or did you go to school for
yeah,
something else?
no, I'm actually a therapist.
Oh, okay,
My knowledge of the industry came from my obsession of just wanting to know more about it and just loving to
gotcha.
talk to people, and pick their brain and not being afraid to like, ask questions.
Uh huh.
Sometimes to a fault, but and then so Ryan, he was the best at art, right? So he does all of our artwork, or he knows how to outsource certain designs to people. Like, he knows like I got this like, Excel sheet of 15 different artists, and this is what each of them are good at. So if I
Yeah,
can't do something, I know who to reach out to.
gotcha.
And he's also his main job is like social media and like marketing. So he runs Facebook and Instagram,
Cool.
because of like ads and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's also predominantly main songwriter because he just knows how to be. He's a creative, so he just writes songs
Uh
and
huh.
stuff. But he writes really cheesy stuff. So he'll be the one that's like, "You're my sunshine on a cloudy day,"
Uh huh.
and then flash forward to Cody. Cody is very much like in tune with like what's hip.
Uh
So if we're trying to find like that's such a lame word, hip. Anyway, I'm
huh.
30.
I hear
But
you.
like they but sorry, but he'll sit there and be like, so this merchandise piece is like popular right now. Like we don't have like dad hats. We should get dad hats. Or yo, let's get a hoodie, but instead of just doing the basic screen print, what's really popular is like the nice elegant embroidery in the center of the chest. So let's do that in a unique way.
Yeah.
Um and he's a wizard on Twitter. So he really knows how to like utilize that platform well.
Yeah.
He runs our merch store because he's really good at like connect. Like we're all really good at connecting with the people we meet. But he just has that Cody touch when he's like writing a thank you letter to a fan who bought a T-shirt. So he handles all the merch orders and stuff too. And then he's also the main writer of the band as well. But
Hmm.
Cody is much more like metaphorical and kind of deep with his stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
So he knows how to be like, Ryan, that's too cheesy. We should say it this way. And then Ryan knows how to say, Cody, you're being too confusing. I think we can simplify it and say it this way.
Right.
And so they perfectly mesh with the songwriting, and
Yeah.
write the songs that you hear.
That's awesome, and it's great to know that you guys found that early on, and to know that, okay, we all can't do everything, like we have to know what our strengths are as a band. Like, you're the business guy, so hey, I'm man enough to say that I can't do that. If you're gonna do it the best way, you got to do that. And if you're not the best songwriter, but I have a hand in songwriting, I'm going to take dibs on the songwriting. And like you said, you have to kind of let your ego at the door, and whatever's going to make the
Mhm.
band sound the best and get the most done. Then, I think, like you said, that's probably what separates a lot of uh, the local bands from the bands that try to start forming and being more serious and getting to that next level. Because, like you said, everybody wants to be that lead person, and
Mhm.
sometimes egos and a lot of things get in the way, because it's like, oh
Yeah.
well, I wrote this, but it never got used. Why don't do you guys think I'm not a good song? I mean, no, we probably just thought this was better. So I mean, we liked what you did, but this kind of, like how you were saying with Cody and the bass player, that he writes more of the soft, cuddly words, but then Cody can kind of bring it into a more metaphorical way, and
Mhm.
kind of, and then they kind of work that out. So it's great to know that from your band standpoint, that you guys have roles and you guys know what your roles are, and it just flows through, and then it comes out in your shows too, that you guys have this bond, and you guys just know what to do when you're on and off stage. So it's great to hear.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and like we always say, if someone's like ego is getting in the way, like if Ryan's like, no, like I think this is what it needs to be, and me and Cody are like, nah, dude, that kind of sucks. or even Cody or myself, like I tend to be pretty egotistical with like business ideas and what we should
Uh-huh.
do. We do have to check each other every once in a while, be like, yo, your ego is showing, and they're like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, I'm
And
just
it's good to
excited.
have that type of relationship where you guys can say that to each other, and not seem like it's like you guys are being rude to each other. You're just like, okay, you're just
No.
checking me. Okay, I got you, my bad. Instead of it,
It's trust. That's what it comes
there
down
you
to. It's
go. Yeah. You
the
guys trust
they
each
have.
other, and you guys have the confidence to know that, okay, if he knows that
Yeah.
I'm not in the right headspace, he's going to check me and be like, okay, I'm coming down. And instead of it taken as a wrong way, because again, when it comes to that, some people may not be able to take that the right way and be like, oh, well, where's he coming from? No, I mean, it's just, we know when this
Mhm.
guy is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. So, hey, circle back around and let's get this thing
Mhm.
going.
Yeah, and it's yeah, like I said, when we developed it to be like three best friends, and the only reason we don't hang out all the time anyway is just because we all live like an hour away from each other. We like a
Uh,
perfect triangle. But I mean, we still hang out even so. I mean, Cody comes up to Philly to see like shows with me, and same with like Ryan and stuff. But yeah, it's just trust. We very much established in the beginning, like excuse me, hiccups and beer burps. If I'm if I'm saying something, it's not because I'm just trying to get my way. It's because I genuinely think it's what's best for the band.
absolutely.
And sometimes when we hit like especially in writing, we'll hit this most of the time in writing, because the business conversation, it's kind of easy. Like everyone just has to be on the same page. So if I say, oh, I want to go on like a 3 week tour to Texas,
Hmm.
Ryan and Cody have to be okay with that, like,
Yeah.
and because like it's their lives too. So if they're like, "Look, man, like we want to do it, but we just don't think it's right. Let's compromise, and maybe instead of doing Texas, then let's do like Northeast,
Yeah.
for 10 days." Okay, cool. They're not trying to like hurt the band. They're also just trying to keep everything balanced because that's how we've been able to continuously grow.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like, Ryan. Ryan definitely loves to talk like big picture with like music videos. Like, oh, we can do this, 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 and
Yeah.
this. And me and Cody are like, yeah, that sounds expensive though. So like maybe we can do this, this, and this instead, where it's still powerful. And it's like Ryan wasn't trying to make us spend all of our money. He just had a really big idea, but me and Cody realistically couldn't do that. So it's like, hey, we're trying to compromise because we can still show growth
Yeah.
without destroying ourselves. And that's the other way bands tend to break up, is they don't find like a compromise with one another. It's like all or nothing. And then
Yeah.
sometimes people are pushing themselves beyond their means,
Right.
and then it's not sustainable. Even bands I see all the time, like, oh, we invested 10K in this record and 20K in music videos and 5K in like marketing material. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you just spent 25 grand on your first record. So you're basically telling us you're going to spend 25K or more every release you do.
Right.
Well, that's not sustainable, right?
Exactly.
So you kind of just blew your hair all right now,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going to be able to sustain that because, as you know, and as most people know, the bands that kind of come out of nowhere and then just have the spark and take the hell off, they're an anomaly and very far few between.
Yeah.
Like real, it's usually the bands that have to like develop the relationship together. They have to grind it out. They have to play that there's nobody shows. There's bad
Yes.
shows we talked about earlier,
Absolutely.
um, and grow like make it grow and then go to a point where you can sustain that. So we know like we can go to these level of studios and work with these types of producers every time because we've gotten to the point where we can afford to do that every time.
Yes.
We're not going to record with this awesome producer and then the next record we're recording with a Jimmy John from
Yeah.
Philadelphia in his basement because we spent all of our money to record with this guy.
Exactly. It makes sense. You're not gonna, like you said, you're not gonna record with a well known producer and make your one record, spot on, and then the next record be like, well, we got to kind of, bring down our spending limit, and then you're going back to a local one, and like, oh, well, the quality went down. So,
Exactly.
it's like
So,
you gotta have certain step ladders to be like, okay,
yeah.
what's our spending limit, and what's our best ways of getting the best quality for the price that we have, and then you
Yeah.
want to get to that level, but again, you got to be realistic. Do you want to spend the more amount of money, and then like you said, you got to try to sustain that, and there's no way you're gonna try to sustain 25 grand every release,
And
especially
not
for a
like yeah,
local
not
band.
and sometimes even with the label support, you're not going to because guess what? Budgets change depending on how well you do. Believe it or not,
Absolutely.
you don't
Yeah.
just get 50K every record, regardless of how you do. It's usually like a
Yeah.
scale. Like we'll give you between like 10 and 30, and if you do really well, you'll get 30. If you suck, you're gonna keep 10.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but like but it all and it comes and that trust was developed through communication. Like we very much value healthy communication with one another where we can be realistic with each other. We trust, we're coming from a place of caring and love for one another and the band. That if I say something or Ryan says something or Cody, we're not sitting there being like, oh fuck you, you're just out for yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
no, not at all. And a lot of people don't have those healthy communication skills. I mean, it also helps that I'm a fucking therapist, so I'm able to
Yeah.
like,
So
I
it
kind of
comes
know.
in handy. So.
It does, right? And then actually, and even with songwriting too. But we've never fought as a band. We've had heated arguments and disagreements,
Right.
but it was because we were passionate about the ideas we were coming in with, not because we thought you're against the band or you're trying to just be selfish right now. Because one thing we've realized, because we've all come from bands with members who were very selfish, and it
Mm-hmm.
just destroyed everything. It destroyed the morale.
Yeah.
We see where we go. We play shows with bands now, and we've played shows with bands who are signed and doing big tours who are, wow, that member of yours is selfish, and your band's going to implode at one point. And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? It does. So
Yeah.
just making a lot of vows and promises together to like not be certain ways and always keep communication and splitting things equally. All that stuff just plays into it with and I think one of the things I actually learned this not too long ago.
Uh huh.
Not to keep rambling, but one of the
No.
things I feel like helps is there's this psychological and neuro like psychological concept called flow,
Uh huh.
and it essentially means like you're you're just kind of like completely ingrained in like what you're doing, and you're not really trying to seek the validation from like outside. So
Hmm.
like in a creative standpoint, let's say you're writing a song, you're just flow of consciousness with the song you're working on. You have your phone away, your distractions away. You don't have the song you're trying to rip off in a separate browser.
Right.
You just focus on that, and that's actually what helps with like creativity with that creativity, not only for the art that you're creating and just, which helps it be unique because you're not like, it comes down to like you're you're paying attention versus seeking attention.
Right.
So a band who's like, oh, I'm gonna rip off state champs because they're really popular right now, and that might sound really cool if I do it this way. Well, you're just seeking attention. So then you're
Yeah.
compromising your art, and then it's not as unique, and you don't see the successes. But when you're paying attention to what you're doing, you're able to actually really have this, again, flow of consciousness where you're able to be kind of unique and be creative and not feel as binded. But
Hmm.
with that same concept of creation also comes the creation of communication with one another. So when I'm actually paying attention to what Ryan is saying and
Hmm.
what Cody is saying, I have that flow of consciousness where I'm actually, again, not seeking attention from them by trying to like turn the conversation about what I want or what I think it's best. I'm actually paying attention to what they are saying, and then
Uh-huh.
they are actually paying attention to what I'm saying, which helps bridge healthy communication together. And then it allows us to also then be more creative, going forward.
That's an awesome concept, man. I've never seen it like that, and especially how you were putting on the fact that you're not necessarily trying to rip off another band because state champs has their own sound. Nobody wants to hear another state champs. They want to hear somebody that has their own originality. It's one thing taking
Mm,
influences from bands and saying like, oh well, I can see where they maybe got that one song, or that you have bands that sound
yeah.
like other bands, maybe not spot on, but like, okay, well, I can see the influence of what they
Right.
took from those. But you want to keep your originality and being unique, and sometimes it could be hard because, a lot of people, their first thing when they hear a band is like, who do you sound like? And, sometimes you want to say certain bands, like, because I've always been with my music is the fact that, and especially with a lot of my bands, like, we never really tried to truly sound like anybody else. We had our influences, yeah, but we never really had that type of attitude to be like, we sound like this band. Like, we
Yeah.
sound we sound like ourselves.
Here's this breakdown that a Day to Remember would do, and it would sound cool. Like,
Right, they already did that type of thing because, and if you want to hear an ADR breakdown, go to one of the shows. But we can do that all night. But you want to hear originality, you want to hear uniqueness coming from a band that if you're going to see a
mhm,
new band, you don't want to hear them play the headliners type of music because that's their set. You want to hear, okay, what's this band about? You
yeah,
can respect the fact that, okay, well, I can see where their influences come from and where they probably are heading down, but you want them to be remembering you for your own unique songwriting and seeing how
mhm,
you can. You guys are a pop punk band. You don't want to be just another pop punk band. You want to be changing the game and having that pop punk feel, but something different.
mhm.
And what makes you guys different than any other pop punk band? So I think that's
Right.
another thing that keeps people going. You're always bringing something new to the table. You're always
Yeah.
experimenting and bringing something new to the genre instead of just being another cop out of a
Yeah.
same band.
What also that concept of flow really talks about too is about being creatively fulfilled as well.
Hmm.
So you might have a song that might kind of sound like a Blink song or a 4 Year Strong song, or if you're whatever other genre
Uh
band
huh.
you're in, but when you kind of really have that flow of consciousness going and you're just paying attention to what you're doing and not really being distracted by anything else, you feel more creatively fulfilled, even if it's like, oh, that kind of sounds like that's really relative to Blink 182. It's like, all right, cool, but I'm creatively fulfilled because I didn't do it with the intention of ripping them off to try to get success off of what their tricks and tips, but that's just what happened. And again, like
Right.
that whole concept can flow into different things. I know I reference communication, especially between band and even people. Like I will feel fulfilled after a conversation because I was paying attention,
Uh huh.
and I was being paid attention to when it was my turn to speak
Yeah.
versus trying to seek attention,
Right.
and sometimes like we do that in conversations with people where it's like you might say something outlandish to be the bully, to
Hmm.
push someone down, right? You're in an argument and all of a sudden you're saying stuff that has no relation to the conversation, but you're just trying to belittle the other person to be domineering and get your
Yeah.
way.
Right.
That's seeking attention. So you don't feel. as fulfilled because even if you got your way, you know that they don't actually agree with you, and you kind of always realize like, yo, that person probably isn't okay with this, they're just going along with it.
Yeah.
But when you actually have like, again, when you're paying attention, when you're, having the concept of flow
Uh huh.
and you have that communication, you feel fulfilled after the conversation. You feel heard, you feel like you were hearing the other people, and then you got to a conclusion together where you both actually feel satisfied. You can leave the room feeling like, yep, we're on the same page. I feel good.
That's awesome. The concept of flow. I'm gonna definitely put
We're
that in
into
my
that.
cards. I really like that concept, man. That was an awesome you know thing to talk about. And yeah, I think more bands should kind of take that concept of being able to
Hmm.
pay attention more to your bandmates instead of not necessarily just trying to get your way, but listening to what they got to say and then take their opinions and then just how you can add on to that instead of like you said just hearing what they got to say but then your mentality being like yeah that's cool but this is what I think you know
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like again, just being completely. I actually in the little group chat I sent you the link for the psychology of flow.
mm-hmm
Just being completely in like engrossed again into what you're actually doing and paying attention, and it can actually be even deeper than just listening to the song that you're writing and adding parts or listening to what people are saying. It can also be like actually recognizing the physical symptoms that you're also experiencing too.
uh-huh
If is like if you're recognizing you're getting angry in a conversation, like feeling like your body heat kind of like tense, rise and like your body being tense. So it's like, okay, I'm realizing I'm getting angry. I need to do something to not be angry and pay better attention to the person talking to me so I can understand what they're saying.
right
You know, Eh, it's really, really cool. Joseph Gordon-Levitt actually does a really cool TED talk about it too, if you're ever
hmm.
interested.
Yeah, man. I'm always
Because he talk,
interested in learning about like little concepts like that. I've learned to explore a lot of different uh you know things like we've been talking about, just certain therapeutic and ways of certain conversation. Learning to pay attention and kind of see instead of just seeing one sided and just one way, kind of seeing both ends of a story and not just always assuming there's one way to a conversation that just because you hear something there could be another way it could be portrayed. There's always something to take from a story, and that's what I've been kind of learning with kind of being more open to conversation instead of just seeing it one sided.
Yep, yeah, and I was definitely that way too. Like before, back in like the old bands, I would think I knew everything, So even if someone would try to give me advice, I'd be like, yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. I sold 100 tickets to the Voltage Lounge. What are you doing?
Oh my
But
god. It sounds
such
so much
such
like my
such.
first band.
I was such a prick. I'm still kind of a prick, but I feel like I'm like I feel like I'm less of a prick, like know it all, but more of like a prick where it's like, yeah, no, like don't, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna talk myself into a corner and make myself look bad, so I'll shut up there.
Yeah.
But
And
still a little bit of a
I've
prick.
had so many people come up to me before and that are younger than me and that have either seen me in bands or they see me with my music stuff and they're like, "Yeah, man, I really look up to you because I see you're doing a whole bunch of stuff." And it's inspiring for me to know that people look up to me and think of me in that type of way, but I'm like, I'm just a regular guy just trying to be a performer and write some awesome music for people. And I take it with all the gratitude because I always think of on the level of like success. I always talk about this with a lot of people that I've always thought when you're a kid, I'm pretty sure you can agree with this because we kind of seem like we have a lot of the same mindset when we were kids. Of like you always think success is like selling out the Madison Square Garden or playing that big festival, and that's like or selling millions and being a platinum selling artist and stuff. But then as you get older, that success like tower starts going down, down, and down and down. And not because you start seeing that, like, okay, you may not be that big famous musician, but like, I think your sense of reality starts hitting you that, you know, a success can be more than just playing for millions of people. It can
Oh yeah.
be success can just be like I was just mentioning, inspiring a upcoming musician that sees you and says, "Hey, what do I have to do? Not necessarily to get to your level, but I'm trying to just start out. Can you give me any advice?" If I can help out somebody that was at my level, I wish I could have had that type of advice for. That can be success. You know, there's so many levels to success, and over the years, I've been able to, I guess, edit and update my level of meaning for success over the years. And I think it
Oh,
just comes with more maturity and more sense of coming to reality. But I never really feel it's like I'm just coming down because I know I'll never get to that level. I may never get to that level, but the sense of being able to realize that helping others that are, and I can't really say below you because I feel that's rude to say that nobody's below you, but like people that are just starting out, everybody was at that starting out level, and I feel you can always inspire other people and help them out too, because everybody wants to play shows. If you're a musician, everybody wants to get out there and play for a couple people, and if you can help out just one person to get them, get the ball rolling for them, that's just as more inspiring as playing for a big like sold out crowd of people.
for sure. And I think, yeah, like when you're young, you're chasing ego. Like that's what it is,
Yeah.
right? You want to be like, I always saw that the high school reunion effect, right? Where it's like in 10 years, I want to go back to my high school reunion and be like a huge mega star. Like,
Yeah.
I played guitar in, high school and I was in bands and all my friends, all the kids in school like laughed at me. So I want to go back in 10 years and be like, yeah, like, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm a
Look at me
platinum selling
now.
recording artist. But then when you get older and you start to realize what's actually important, and it comes from experience. It comes
Yes.
from you have to learn that stuff. That's why they always say like kind of like trust your parents and people who live because
Mm-hmm.
they just have more experiences to kind of teach you the importance of things if they're level headed. I'm not gonna say every parent is great, but
Right.
but like being like turning 30, like I know I'm only it's only been like a couple months, but there was like this click in my mind where it was like so many things don't matter anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
the friend who wants to block me on Facebook because I didn't listen to their music or something right away and they're being petty about it. It's like I guess I don't need to be your friend. That's fine.
Right. Because
Whereas
were you
like a
were
couple
you really
years
my friend in the first place anyway? If it,
yeah, and a couple years ago I probably would have like messaged them and apologized and tried to keep the friendship going or
right.
maybe been fighting with their friends about like just starting drama like like what you do
Yeah.
as a kid. Because you're chasing ego. How dare you not want to be friends with me? What did I do to you? So I'm going to try to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But then it's like, again, like this light kind of went off. It's like, all right, that's how you want to be. Okay. See you, I guess. Whatever.
Right.
Um, and, stuff like that. And then again, like changing your definition of success. Does Goalkeeper still want to be the band that sells out football stadiums? Fuck yeah, we
Oh
do. Are you
yeah.
kidding?
Oh yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
if you told us in 5 years we would have a very lucrative, we would have a very comfortable career of being able to sell out venues like the Electric Factory as like our capacity, and but we're paying our bills with our music and putting some money away for our future, cool. I'm stoked for that too.
Absolutely.
Or just the fact like even if we all had like full, I mean, again, we like to speak things into existence, so we always try to say like when we're doing this. That's a Cody thing. Um, but again, speaking more realistically, the possibility of not being successful and making music the only career you have is very possible. It's more likely than making a career. But maybe I'm a full-time therapist, but I still get to play music with my friends,
right.
and get to every time we play a show, it's like you get to see people you haven't seen on a regular basis because they come out to see your band, or especially in like different cities and stuff. So that can be success too. It all kind of depends on where your headspace is at, and everything. And again, you have to learn that stuff. When I was 20 years old, man, like I told you, I was ego, ego, ego.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the big star.
Yep.
And I'm not a big astrology guy by any means, but I will say Leo to the fullest.
Yeah.
All ego all the time, thinking you're big shot, thinking like
Mm-hmm.
your music doesn't, like nothing you do fucking sucks, and everyone else is
Right.
like, oh, you see that shitty show? Like, yeah, man, we're better than that. And
Yeah.
then you realize you're like, no, you kind of suck too.
Yeah, we would be
you
looking at
know,
bands on our bill, and we would be watching them because we would be playing after them, and we'd be watching them, be like, we're better than them, right? We're way
yeah,
better than them. That's why we're on the that's
that,
why we're higher on the car. These guys can't even
yeah,
touch us.
yeah,
We
they
got wireless
suck.
guitars. We got wireless guitars. We were doing the full stacks. We wanted to be the band to be like, if you guys are, I will say we had a live show that, we had a great live show that if you guys came, you were being put on a show. That was our thing, and that's why we wanted to do like the whole wireless guitars. We went out into the crowd, and like you said, egotistical to the T. And but
Hmm.
then you get to that point now. There's like, yeah, we were very asshole-ish to a lot of people, and we had our friends that were in another band, but and I had the guitar player on here on the podcast about a year ago, and we were talking about, that we used to think that you guys were our rivals, and we wanted to outperform you guys, and it was never about that. But we always in the back of our minds, like, we always wanted to blow them out of the water. But and it's
Yeah,
just
I mean,
funny
I
how,
will say some friendly competition isn't the worst thing.
no, it's really
You know,
not.
like again, when we went on the run with Friend Circle, there was a little bit of competition every night, like who performed better, because like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, all right, we gotta step up our game. We can't go up there and look like jerks. They played so
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Um, and the same thing for them too. It's like, all right, like we're playing really well, but Goalkeeper, maybe they're being goofier and jumping around a lot more than we do. So we gotta
Mm-hmm.
kind of step up our game. But that's also like that's not competitiveness in the sense of like you're my rival. That's like
Yeah,
friendly. Like, yo, I bet I can do this cooler. All
yeah,
right, like
yeah.
that's what like like when we were growing up and we had our friends, like you'd skateboard or something and we like see each other on the weekend. Like, I learned to kickflip. Oh, well, now I got to learn to like heel flip.
Yeah, right.
It's
Like I
always
said,
like
friendly
this
competition is different than just
different.
being egotistically, like bashing
Like,
people, or the fact
yeah,
that, like, oh, you think you're better than
yeah.
everybody.
And
Yeah.
also like uh there's a big difference. I talk about this a lot in like psychology in therapy,
Uh huh.
because we're kind of taught that if you have confidence, you're an asshole,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look down upon yourself, you're pathetic. And that's a
Right.
very, very unsettling like mindset to have, that the American culture really teaches us as we're growing up.
Uh huh.
Um, so there's a difference between like, and so I always say like we can be confident, like when we played with Bowling for Soup a couple weeks ago, and
Awesome.
we were direct support. The show sold out. We had a great crowd. And I'm saying this out of confidence. Like, I know, like, the crowd loved us. They cheered after us when we played, and when Bowling for Soup announced our name to give thanks to us, like, place went nuts. We had crowd surfers, like mosh pits. Like, it was insane. It was
Mm-hmm.
great. Sold a bunch of merchandise, and so we felt like, yeah, we earned our spot here. We pushed, we wrote good enough songs,
Uh huh.
we connected with people, we were genuine. So we feel confident that we deserve to be here. Now, we didn't say we deserve to be there more than anybody else,
Yeah.
because that's where you get into the ego. Because
Yes.
it could have very well have been any one of our other friends, whether they have less monthly listeners than us or more monthly listeners than us or whatever the fucking case may be.
Yeah.
But we would have been supportive of that. Holy shit, like, cut the act, got the show. Like, that's absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, congrats to them, or
Yeah.
Pointless or Groundless, whoever. Like, hell
Right.
fucking, we're going to buy tickets and go.
Yeah.
But, so that's the difference. Ego is we deserve to be here more than anybody else. Confidence, healthy confidence is like, okay, I feel like, we've done the work to earn this spot.
Mm-hmm.
Not more than anybody else, but we did our work to earn this spot. And so let's like seize, I mean, not to be kind of cliche, let's seize the moment. Let's
Yeah.
jump around, go crazy, be
I totally
goofy,
agree.
prepare. And that's what a lot of people aren't really taught. You know, because
Uh-huh.
again, confidence is like, oh, you're an asshole, you're a Leo. Like,
Yeah,
no, like I'm confident in my ability for my band to write good songs and to perform well, but I'm not going to sit here and
absolutely.
say we deserve it any more than anybody else. You know, so if we get an opportunity, we're going to appreciate it and do the
Yeah,
best we can.
absolutely.
And if we don't, we're going to still support the best we can.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. Like I said, you hit it right on the nail. That we grew up with a lot of different standards, and those are the two big things that you grow up thinking like, okay, I mean, it's okay to be confident, but don't be too confident. And then if you're
So what's that mean? What's
right, and it's like I think you explained it pretty well that it's one thing confident on one end of being confident of like, yeah, we're so confident that we should be here and we deserve to be here more than anybody else. But then there's another aspect of being confident that we deserve to be here because we worked our asses off to get to this point. We wrote the songs, we connected with people, and we got the big show. And this is our moment. Let's seize it. Let's have a good show. And it happens. And that's the confidence that you strive for. And like you
hmm
said, some people may not know how to get that type of confidence because they're so used to being on that other side of confidence of like the ego confidence. And so
Yeah.
I guess it comes back to like I guess it comes back to maturity. You got to have to learn it, just like how people learn to be egotistical. You got to learn to like
hmm
change your way of like, okay, of seeing certain things in a different way. And
Or have
some
7 years of psychology training like I do. Then you can.
yeah, or that just spend a lot of money in your schooling and being
Yeah,
in debt with schooling, and you can
for
at
the
least
rest of
talk
your
about it on
life.
a podcast.
Yeah, I will say, like, I do value that as much as I don't want to be a therapist the rest of my life. I do value the education I got with that. I think that's another thing too, is education's not a bad thing. We're
No,
often
yeah.
taught that we're often taught that it like keeps you from being creative. But honestly,
Mm,
if I would have went to if I would have went to school for music or music business, I don't think I would love it the way I do because my life would just be consumed. So now it's this
I agree.
outlet for me.
I agree.
Um, and again, there are plenty of people who study music and music business and they love it. That's great. I'm not built that way. If I'm like, if I'm one thing all the time, 24/7, I lose my mind. But that's just
Uh,
me. Um, we need I need diversity in my life.
mm-hmm.
Um, but it's like, value education because you learn a lot of things like you don't like. I would have never learned all the and like psychological concepts and
Yeah.
the self-awareness and really because I mean anyone who's taken a psych class, most of this stuff is like learning how to be self-aware. A lot of like think about this concept for yourself and be raw and honest and like writing this essay be like, wow, I suck. I'm a dick. All right, I gotta like dedicate to change on this one.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And and for us it's actually been really helpful too because when we're trying to write songs and Ryan and Cody are really trying to bring out the because we're always known as like the happy-go-lucky pop punk band, but
Uh huh.
we obviously aren't happy-go-lucky all of the time.
Yeah.
So when we were writing like the new record in our last EP, we really want to show like the more sad side of us, like the more realistic emotions. Like we are happy, but we also have these very real experiences.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
it was helpful for Ryan and Cody to be able to like console with me and say, "Hey, if this person's feeling this way, almost like kind of therapy, like I'm feeling this way, so how would I want to express that
Yeah.
healthy?"
Yeah. I mean, I guess having
And
that
then
type of actually, because you want to express it in the way, but you don't want to be, you know, expressing it in the wrong way. You want to make sure that you're true to what you're saying. So you want to be portraying it in the right
right,
way. So I think your therapeutic background and psych background kind of helps to make sure that those lyrics in your songs are being portrayed in the right way and you're putting them in the right eyes and singing them the right way.
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's you can't get any better than that. I mean, having that type of background to be able to make sure that you have that extra, okay, I want to make sure that I'm portraying this the right way.
The best songwriters and artists and creators in general do their research.
Mm-hmm.
before just like spewing out bullshit, because that's
Yeah.
how you accidentally say things incorrectly that ends up being something that you feel very passionate about, but actually is more insulting to
Uh-huh.
maybe to a group of people, or something like that. And, you know, you never want to express depression in a way that people who really do suffer from it hear that lyric and they say, "Yo, that's fucked." Why'd you say it that way? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be able to like, and I guess like for Ron and Cody, that's where like I can come in. We're like, hey, how do I express this, or what would a person go through, or be expected to kind of go through and feel, or what are some experiences you've seen with your clients where they're kind of feeling this way and it's been expressed that way, and it really helps them say, okay, so this is how I can, and it also helps them because it's like, okay, I'm expressing it in a genuine way and not just like putting whatever words that come to my mind that may have been embedded in some form of like, I say ignorance, not in the
Uh-huh.
sense that they are ignorant people, but ignorance in the sense of like they don't actually know like the right vernacular to say something, and so it ends up being, like I said, like more insulting than actually helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what I think a lot of people, that's what we do all the time. That's what I try to check myself regularly, of just a lot of self-reflection, really paying attention to the way you do things and being a little bit more intentional rather than just like kind of fly off the handle with it, And I was very much that way too. Like growing up, like I would put myself in situations that like I could not keep that promise, or I would overwork myself, or again, kind of talk myself into a corner where I'm like, wow, I really made myself look like a dick, and I didn't have to
Uh-huh.
do that. Like why was I doing that? Oh, right,
Right.
it was ego. So, um,
It's good that
you
we can
know,
catch it now instead of being still our, like our younger selves and being like, "What was I being too egotistical?" Nah, I'm being the right way. Where now, like
yeah,
you're a little bit older and you're like, "Yeah, I was a little bit full of myself."
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I always say it's better late than never to kind of realize that and like
Hmm.
make a change. Um, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's been I can honestly say it's been good, and being able to talk about this stuff always. Sorry, my dog is just like running back and forth. I know, buddy. We're gonna go for a walk in like soon.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I do gotta say this was an awesome talk. I did not expect to, go into this aspect. It's awesome to, uh, talk to musicians, and I know we haven't actually had like a physical talk with each other. We knew each other, we played shows, but it's been an awesome time talking to you, man. And it's good to see a different side of you, and outside of just playing music and being able to dissect a lot of different information. And I really had an awesome time talking with you tonight, man. And definitely want to get you and the rest of the guys to come back on the show. We can do a whole another podcast with the band. And before we get out of here, so Goalkeeper is working on a new record. You were
yep.
saying, correct? So is there a release date sometime next year? Are you guys still in pre-production with it, or?
No, so we finished about half of it. We don't have a release date or anything, because just be honest, we ran into issues with mixing engineers, finding the
Right,
right
right.
engineer. This is the first time we really had to go through like a lot of test mixes to really find the person who's like landing it. Um, so that kind of delayed some things, but it's okay. The record's going to sound great. We're so stoked on like what we're hearing so far.
That's awesome.
Our goal is next year. We definitely don't want to wait longer than next year, and I think
Yeah.
like summertime would be like ideal.
Uh huh.
But again, it's going to kind of come down to like that stuff. But yeah, we're really stoked. We're working with a great team. I mentioned earlier we get to work with Kevin from Hit the Lights Again.
Uh
So this
huh.
will be the third release he's been producing for us, and we usually go away for several, like for a few weeks. Like in our Bad Times on Last EP, we went to Kentucky, like I said earlier. Life in Slow Motion, we went to Nashville. This time around, we actually stayed home and we're working with Nick from Man Overboard over at the Gradwell House.
Awesome. Awesome.
So it's been a different experience going home every day. um, it's definitely been cool, and then obviously getting to work with Nick, who's like an idol to us, and to hear him really validate and believe in what we've been doing, especially again coming from someone who's like dude, Man Overboard's heroes to Goalkeeper, not to be all like weird about it, but they are.
Uh-huh.
And so for him to be like, yo, your band is sick, and I feel like you guys are gonna go places if you just keep on the right track. You're like, oh, and I want to record your record,
Uh,
like, dope.
Wait, you're talking about my band?
Yeah, exactly. And you're not lying just
You're
to get a job.
like you're really mean. You really mean that? Like,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
we're still so young that when people like talk about wanting to work with us and stuff, we're still like that paranoid like up and coming band. We're like,
Yeah.
do you really, or are we just a paycheck to you? But
Right. I think is
no,
this
no, no,
one of those Instagram scams that you get?
yeah, no, but we know he really wanted the record, and we felt that that's why we went with him. And
That's awesome, man.
excuse me, and yeah, so the plan is to finish it in December. Like I said, we got about half done. A couple singles are sent off to mixing, finding the right engineer for that. And then yeah, hopefully finish in December, and then all the other stuff like music videos and artwork and press and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
I think we're shooting for a single in like quarter one, early quarter two of next year, and ideally the record would be out sometime like mid to late summer. But obviously, don't hold me to that because things change all the time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thank you for coming on. So where can people find you? Are you guys in the middle of a tour? Are you guys home? Where can people check you out?
So, home right now. We leave for tour next week. We're going from Florida, and then we're playing Fest, which is rad. First time playing a big festival like that. And we're shooting back up the East Coast. We're ending in Atlantic City on November 6th, and Beret with David Earl, Hero. Um, and then, but you can find us on all the socials. It's at Goalkeeper Band NJ. Did we still keep the NJ? Actually, hold on. Let me see, because I think we changed it a little bit.
All right.
We realized we're like two-thirds of us are from New Jersey, and we realized that it wasn't as accurate to do that. Um, and we changed it recently. No, sorry, it's just at Goalkeeper Band. So there,
Okay.
there you
Yeah.
go.
So
Shows how
at
much
Goalkeeper
shows how
Band,
much
it's
I
not
know.
just at Goalkeeper. So
Yeah, it has to be band, otherwise you're gonna get a whole bunch of soccer things, which is great because so many of those pages and like actual soccer athletes from around the world tag us incorrectly.
hey,
So then
it's extra.
every time it happens, we just send them our EP.
There you go. Extra
We'll
shameless
see.
promotion.
Why? Why not? Why not? We actually, it's surprising. It's funny. We actually have like several people in like Saudi Arabia who like really like us. So we're like, all
There you
right,
go.
cool.
Hey, there's one way to get your music out there. You never know. They might be playing your music out on the soccer field. You never know.
Hopefully one day, man. Hopefully one day. But yeah, just we're doing the tours, all the socials, and then all next year we're just spending time touring. So if you shoot us a follow, you'll get all the updates as to where we'll be, and if we're anywhere near you, come on out. Love to meet you.
Yeah, man, guys. Make sure you guys are checking out Goalkeeper in a town near you. Make sure to look out for their new album coming out next year. Go stream their music. Give them some love. Mark, it was awesome talking to you tonight. Thank you for coming on with me. We definitely got to do this again and get the rest of the guys on here and have another conversation. Thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah.
Make sure if you guys like this, give us a follow and subscribe. Share with a friend. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Table Talk, guys. Have a great night. Thank you.